Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. I'm in Atwater. As you know, I'm just taking you through the journey with me at the time that I spent in United States Penitentiary. And one of the first things that I've noticed or realized and recognized in the penitentiary is that there's always coalitions. You know, the Crips, they're all different hoods. And these hoods might beef on the streets because there's so many of them. But in the penitentiary, they all come together as a Crip car. Same thing with the Bloods. Same thing with the GDs, the Vice Lords, P-Stones. Then after that, it gets broken down into states. You know, this guy's from Utah. These guys are from Texas. These guys are from Florida. These guys are from wherever they're from. But sometimes coalitions break down. In Atwater, there's the Midwest Coalition. Midwest is all the Midwest states. I can't name them all because I've never been anywhere outside of Utah. I used to live in California, and any other state that I've ever been in was just being in the penitentiary, getting shipped, you know, through the marshals and stuff. So I'm not really familiar with all the geographic of the United States. But with the Midwest, there's a lot of GDs and Vice Lords that come out of the Midwest. So Midwest car has GDs and Vice Lords in them too. Then the GDs, the Vice Lords, and the Latin King have a coalition. Especially on the West Coast. Maybe on the East Coast, they might not because there's more of each of those individual cars. But when you go out of state, like the California car, in California where I'm at, it gets broken down to the Bay Area, the Bloods, and the Crips. And they don't have really a West Coast coalition because it's enough for them to stand on their own. But if they get pushed out to the East Coast somewhere, then it doesn't matter if you're Bay Area, Bloods, or Crip. If you're from California, they'll form a California car. Everybody's always trying to have alliances with the next individual because they believe in the concept, there's strength in numbers. But like I said, all these coalitions at one time or another end up crashing. And today I'm gonna share your story with the Midwest and the GDs. There's GDs that come out of the Midwest. So being that, they have an affiliation with the Midwest, even though they're gang members. Like the Midwest is not gang members. They're just people out of those states, and they come together and call it the Midwest Coalition. Well, on this particular day, I'm inside the unit. I don't know the conversation that transpired leading up to this incident because I don't ask questions and I'm not part of the conversation. So there's nothing I can tell you and share with you, you know, the conversation that led up to this. But all I know is that I'm in a unit. And in our unit 2A, they have a window on the second, you know, on the first floor and the second floor, there's a window that looks out to the compound. So I sit there and my cell is up there by the corner. So I always have my chair over there posted up when I'm not on the yard. Just because you get the sun in and you get a view of what's going on. So on this particular day, I don't know or remember their names, but they had 3 GDs on yard 3. Because yard 3 and yard 2, right at the fence, looks right directly in 2A. So they're over there. 3 GDs comes over to my unit and they're throwing up gang sign, you know, giving signals to the GDs in my block. I'm laughing because, like, I might not know what the signs that they were throwing up means. But I know the few GDs that was in my block should know. They're gang members. So I'm already pretty sure, with these organizations, these GDs, these Vice Lords, Latin King, Peace Tones, and we can go down the list. They have their own language, their own lingual, their own codes to communicate, because they know you're not going to be able to always say exactly what you want to say, especially if you're on one side of the yard and I'm on the other side. I have to be able to give you a signal or something, communicate with you, and we have to rehearse it so there's no misunderstanding what I'm trying to convey to you without having to speak. So these three individuals outside in the compound is giving these dudes the signal to do whatever. Now, the GDs and the Vice Lords, they have a coalition. And what all that entails, I can't really speak on it because I don't really know. But at the very least, it's aid and assist. So these three dudes are out on yard 3, waving their hands, doing whatever. They come, first I'm at the window, so they see me, and they're telling me to go get one of their homeboys. So I call a unit. Hey, homie, your people's outside. Your people's outside trying to holler at you. So the 3 GDs that was in my block, they come to the window. Now, I don't know their signs. I don't know. I've never been there and rehearsed their gang signs and their signals or whatever. But for me, I can see that the GDs outside are telling the GDs in my block, to me, that take off, right? Like you're in a plane and it takes off. Because I'm pretty sure they already know there's been a conversation going on for the last few days between the Midwest and the GDs. And now there's no more conversation. Whatever their disagreement was, couldn't come to an understanding, and it's time to crash. They're telling us, the dudes outside, I can see it because I back up, let them sit in the window and communicate with the people outside. But from my perspective, just a few feet back, I can see their homies out in the yard telling them to. I mean, for me, it looks like take off. And I'm already sure they know who they're supposed to take off on. Anyway, none of the GDs in my block take off on nobody. But in the yard and the other unit, it all blew up between the Midwest and the GDs. They got into it. I don't know the extent of the injuries between these two groups because I'm in the unit chilling. But in any confrontation, in any conflict, there's bound to be people who can get hurt. And there's going to be serious injuries, serious bodily harm. Because you don't ever go into a confrontation, at least for me, to fight and exchange punches. When you go into a confrontation, you're fighting for your life. Because if you're fighting to exchange punches and you actually get knocked out, you become defenseless. And there's no telling what your op is going to do to you when your ass is out cold laying on the floor. So when I get into a confrontation, I'm literally fighting for my life because my life is no longer promised to me if something happens, if this guy ends up knocking me out or hitting me in a vital organ or whatever. Through the course of my time, I've been jumped, I've been stabbed, but I've never fell down. I've never left my foot. I can see that these guys are telling the people in my block to take off. But the guys in my block didn't do nothing. But the conflict between the GDs and the Midwest blew up in the other units and on the yard. But when it comes to two different cars get into it, the administration's locked down the penitentiary to keep it from spreading so they can contain the situation. So now we're locked down. We're in our cell. Me and Bryson, we're locked down in the cell together. But we don't discuss it because we don't know what's going on. And we never been the type of people to gossip and insinuate shit or anything like that. So anyway, after about a week, the yard opens back up. But when they first open the yard back up, they let you out in your unit for a couple hours, lock you back down. The next day, they might give you a couple hours of rec, lock you back down. They slowly integrate you back into normal operation. So maybe after the second day, we were allowed to go out to the yard for a few hours. And when we go out to the yard, like we make it almost mandatory for anybody in my position, anybody in a leadership role, or anybody as a gang member or anything. You have a responsibility to know exactly who everybody is on the compound, what affiliate he's associated with, what gang he's from, what state he's from. Because when a confrontation happens, let's say we get into it with the Floridas, dudes from Florida. Well, I want to hit the blacks from Florida or the whites from Florida. I don't want to end up hitting the black that's from the DC area or the black that's from California, because those mistakes can cause a big old clusterfuck. So we have to know it's mandatory. It's part of our survival to know who in each and every one of these individuals are, where they're from, who they're affiliated with, what gang, what race, whatever it is, need to know about them that helps us. We have to do our homework. So when we come out, we see that there's still like 6, 7 GDs left, because the Midwest outnumber the GDs. Because the Midwest is a combination of all those states out there in the Midwest, whereas the GDs is just the gang, Gangster's disciple. And out on the West Coast, there's not a lot of them. Because right now I'm in Atwater, California. It's Northern California. So when we come out, there's still 6, 7 GDs left. But there's about 20 some Midwest that's still on the compound that haven't been locked up, that didn't get into the confrontation. So when we come out, yard 1 is the baseball field. We see the GDs walk through the fence, and they sit by the softball dugout, but they're sitting on the tables on the softball field that's right in front of the lieutenant's office. The GDs are in the same yard, but they're back by the corner on the west side, by the handball court. We all file into the yard 1 too, because that's where there's grass, where we can sit down or whatever. But we're not doing any sitting down at this time, because we know that whatever has happened that caused the lockdown hasn't been settled yet. So the GDs are over there by the tables in front of the lieutenant's office in a little group meeting. The Midwest, we're all in the same yards. Yard 1 is on the other side, clustered up for a group meeting. Me and Bryson and the homie, we're by the bathroom, watching. And, I like to think that, especially if you're a gang member, that you operate a certain way. But sometimes I'm disappointed. You're a GD. And now, before anybody get offended or feel disrespectful, I'm not painting a broad brush on anybody or any gang, because I've been on yards where GDs go hard. I met some good dudes from that area, from that gang, that are men that do what they're supposed to do, that are killers and all the rest. So when you meet those individuals like that, and you know that this gang has a reputation and is well respected, you're just gonna automatically assume that they're all like that. Because if you're not like that, well, why are you part of my gang? If you don't have the same mentality, the same heart that I have, why am I recruiting you? Why am I making you part of my organization? So there's still 6, 7 GDs left on the compound. There's about 20-some Midwest. And you see the Midwest break up and starts walking towards the GD. So we know it's about to go down. It's about to be a Royal Rumble right here in Yard 1. And we got front row seat. So they go over there, and Lil D, he's a Midwest. He's riding the Midwest car. And he's leading the pack. He's a little dude. He's pretty good in basketball, but he's in my block. And they go out there and they confront the other GDs. I can't hear the conversation. But there's, but you can see by the body language that the Midwest are telling them something. And from the result of it, I can, with confidence, try to give you relay the conversation. They told him, leave the yard. If somebody comes up and tells me to leave the yard, regardless if I'm outnumbered or not, somebody's gonna get punched in the mouth, at the very least. But as we're watching, we're expecting a wreck because these are gang members. So we know they're gonna go hard because when I've been in Lompoc, Victorville, Beaumont, they all go hard. So I got front row seat and I'm waiting for a show. But there was no show. These dudes, these 6, 7 GD gang members that was left on that compound in Atwater when the confrontation happened with the Midwest. But I shouldn't have been surprised because the ones in my unit, the 3 that was in my unit, act like they didn't understand what that signal was from their homie. And they didn't do anything. So when the Midwest approached them, they walked back to the fence and shook the fence. We call it shake the fence. They're asking for the motherfucking COs to come out and take them to the shoe, lock them up for their own safety. I guess the point of this episode is that it don't matter if you're a gang member. That don't mean a fucking thing. At the end of the day, it's about who you are as a man. Because I've seen dudes that wasn't part of any gang, didn't act like they were tough, go hard and handle their business. And I've seen gang members, tattoos all over their face, all over their bodies, drop their nuts. Welcome to the USP.